Our next speaker wears many hats. A bilingual writer who taught at Boston University and University of Massachusetts. She is also a civil rights advocate and co-founder of Asian American Coalition for Education. She has appeared on NPR, Boston Globe, and other media to advocate for the equal rights of Asian Americans, including a live streamed panel discussion hosted by WGBH just a few days ago. Please welcome Swan.
Hello everybody. Before everything, I want to announce, tomorrow here at Coffee Square, there will be an Asian American Equal Education Rights rally from 12 to 3. We're going to show our support for the SFFA versus Harvard case, which has been described by some mainstream media as the landmark case on affirmative action. So this might be the start of the end of affirmative action. The concept of affirmative action is very vague. It has been used to push a lot of very problematic, endangering bills, especially to Asian Americans, such as the well-known so-called Asian desegregation bills. When we first got information of this kind of bill that is being started in California, we were amazed. It doesn't matter what's your political inclination, you might be Democratic, or you might be Republican, but the thing is, it's so humiliating when your racial group is being singled out and just have these check boxes exerted upon you, a totally different treatment from all the other racial groups. So it doesn't matter what's your political affiliation. First of all, it's an insult to our dignity. We couldn't believe why there would be such a bill, and we couldn't believe it can be passed. And lo and behold, it did get passed in California. That was a big shock. And it swept down a few more states, such as Rhode Island, I think Washington State, and Minnesota. It seems it's unstoppable. But I think so far we have stopped it in Massachusetts. I think a few factors that contribute to our success in stopping this bill, H 3361, proposed by the Quincy State Representative Kathy Chen, are quite a few. First of all, we have very strong grassroots organizing in opposing this bill. We united folks from all kinds of political inclinations, like Democratic or Republican. It really doesn't matter what you are. And people were willing to put down their own attachments to certain ideals. They were willing to come together and minimize the differences and unite in our common pursuit. And we held like about 10 protests. And we were able to get NPR to cover us. We were able to get Boston Globe to cover us, and they sent a very scary message to the special interest groups that were trying to push us. They were scared that our voice was being heard. So, and we also did a lot of lobbying to our state representatives, and they talked to Kathy Chen. They expressed our concerns. First of all, in his bill, there is no description of for what purpose this is for. This is just collecting your ancestral origin data. It doesn't matter for what purpose. That means it's a free pass to be used for any kind of purpose. And that's very endangering. So they expressed our concerns to Kathy, and he had to put his so-called excuses down on paper, and that is a first step in our winning. Because when he just talks about it to his colleagues in the State House, it's very hard for us to pin his words down. That makes him invincible, because we cannot oppose the air. The air will be invisible. But after he puts it down that we have ideas that we can target and disassemble. We can put down his excuses. So we did it. We look at his excuses and we see these are all very ridiculous and highly racist and just nothing less than racial profiling. He will try to treat people from different ancestry, with ancestry from different countries in Asia differently. In the end, it's really for affirmative action. I mean, some might not think so, but affirmative action can be used as an excuse to do any kind of thing you want. So we organize and people have all kinds of different rhetoric they can push. I want to share with you one thing that's kind of uncommon. I have this friend, Ye, she will be on the panel later to talk about this. She's a social policy scholar, and we are in a group, and one day she shared an article from Boston Globe. It's titled, "Galvin worries anti-immigrant rhetoric may have chilling effect on census." And I looked at it. So our state secretary, William Galvin, is saying he's worried the anti-immigrant atmosphere might have a dampening effect on the census 2020, that immigrants might be scared to put their race or their ancestral origin on the census form. And I looked at it, I was thinking, wow, this is what CACA is trying to do in Massachusetts every day. This is not just about census. Census happens only once every 10 years. And the census information is protected. It cannot be used for just any kind of purpose. Your privacy is protected. The data is used on the block level, like a whole summarizing of the whole group. It cannot go down to personal level. It cannot track where you live, what's your name, how many children you have. But when these kind of questions are brought to the state level, the state is a much more intimate structure from the census. We get forms from like the mobile registration and all kinds of state agencies all the time. When our state agencies have such personal information, it's very easy for them to find us and track us down, and that's very dangerous. So I made this poster. It's called "No Special Asian Census. Stand with all immigrants." So I made it really simple. So what this Asian aggregation bill is nothing less than a special Asian census. It's a census that just targets the Asian American racial group. Massachusetts politicians, when they saw this poster, they immediately understood what's the problem with it. This is no less than Nazi Germany targeting Jewish citizens. So we managed to convince some legislators to see things our way, and they saw the perils of this kind of bill. So we basically changed the atmosphere to some extent in the state house. The bill is no longer the glorious, just helping everybody, will give you everything, will try to prevent all kinds of disease, like it's a cure-all panacea bill. It's no longer that. Now we see this is a racial profiling, ethnic profiling endangered bill that really just targets immigrants from Asia. Those are some of the factors where that contribute to our success in Massachusetts in opposing this bill. So far we haven't seen this kind of bill pop up in other states. So I think in a way we either stopped or really slowed down to a great extent the spread of this kind of extremely dangerous and wrong bills. This kind of ancestral origin data collection is dangerous because as first-generation immigrants, we might not worry so much because our documents are already with the custom control, with the immigration agencies. But for your children, there's no such data. They don't know your children's ethnicity or ancestral origin unless you put it down on state forms that can be abused. And we need to really watch out for that because history has taught us Japanese Americans were sent to internment camps because census gave American government the data to track them down and send them to internment camps just because there was a war going on between the two countries. Especially when countries with very unpredictable tensions with America, such as Iran and Afghanistan and China, we really need to be extra careful because this data can really change our lives in a bad way overnight. You can never predict it. Nobody can foresee the future. Nobody can protect you except yourself. I would like to invite my friends Wilson and Esther. Their ancestors have been here since the 19th century, and they were coolies working on the Transcontinental Railroad. And they were like one of the oldest Chinese families in America. But when Chinese Americans made a lot of contribution to America's economic development. They really contributed to the building of this continental road, Transcontinental Railroad, that helped America expand to the West, and that really contributed a lot to the economic development and social development. But as soon as the railroad was finished, very soon after that, the Chinese Exclusion Act started from 1880 to 1943, almost 100 years. That is a significant factor why Asian American, even though it's about a quarter of the globe's population, is a tiny racial group in America, only about 6%. The reason is because of bills like Chinese Exclusion Act. It seriously limited the immigration from Asia and took a lot of precious opportunities, economic and political everything from this racial group, and emaciated us to a very small size. But instead of making corrections and making recognition for this kind of historical injustice, right now the special interest groups are using our small racial group size against us. They are trying to push a new Marxist, collectivist, proportional representation scheme. They are trying to use our group size against us, trying to do us injustice, and that's totally wrong. So let's learn from the history. Let's invite Wilson to show us a video he made about the history of building a railroad. They're from CACA. It's the oldest Chinese American association in America, more than 100 years.
And the Harvard case is a clear example of discrimination against Asian Americans. It doesn't matter if you're a fifth generation Chinese American like myself, or a fourth generation, or a third generation, or a second generation, or even a first generation. It doesn't matter if you're Chinese from China, Chinese from Hong Kong, Chinese from Macau, or Chinese from Taiwan. Here, we're all American, and we should be treated as an American. So that is why we have this float in the parade to bring awareness to the contribution of the 14,000 Chinese railroad workers who helped build the railroad. It was not for these 14,000 Chinese, I would think that the railroad would take a lot longer. It might not have been completed on time. And that's also why we're working to recognize the Chinese American movement veterans who fought bravely for our country. So stories like that need to be told. But we cannot just share it here among ourselves. That story needs to be shared with the American people. They have to know about our contribution. So 55 years ago, Dr. King said in the national law, and he shared with us his dream, that his 4 little children would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. My dream and our dream is that our children and our children's children would not be denied admission to Harvard or other schools of higher learning because of the color of their skin. Harvard and all these universities should welcome our children in based on merit, based on academic achievement, based on their talent, and yes, based on their character and their great personality. Because I know that all our kids have great personalities. So tomorrow at the rally, the great people of Boston, the people of our nation will hear your voices. I feel your pain, and I share your anger, and I hear your voices. On Monday, in federal court, Harvard University will hear all our